Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a well respected communications professional from Hawaii, USA, Mr. Amos Balongo. Amos, welcome to the show.
Ashosh, thank you. It's good to
Thank,
be here.
thank you. Amos is a keynote speaker and a communications coach. So, Amos, you began your journey in Africa and have since inspired audiences around the world. What first motivated you to step into the field of leadership and motivational speaking?
That's a good question. For me, what really motivated me was prior to getting into leadership, I was a management consultant.
Hmm.
And I realized over the years of doing that management was mostly about systems and processes
Hmm.
and really wasn't focusing on how people can be led and valued and developed. And so my greatest motivation was to become a leadership and communication coach and a
Hmm.
motivational speaker to bring out the best in people through leading people, because I really believe if you take care of the people, they take care of the systems, they take care of the processes.
Hmm.
So that's the motivation piece. And I look into making sure that I can motivate, transform, and inspire people with my experiences and this message.
Well said.
Yeah.
And how did your early experiences and cultural background influence your approach to leadership and communication?
I think a lot of my early experiences, I would I'd kind of relate those to seeing what bad leadership really was
Hmm.
and realizing that uh, people need to be led well. I think everybody deserves to be led well.
Yeah.
And I believe that some of the early experiences of seeing, bad managers, bad leaders, or leaders who, and sometimes I think necessarily it's not that people are bad leaders, it's just that they just haven't been exposed
Mm.
to good leadership or they haven't been taught good leadership.
Yeah.
So these experiences led me to realizing that people deserve to be led well. And if
Mm.
you're in a leadership position, you owe it to yourself and those you lead to be able to lead them well.
Mm. Well said. And Amos, how has living in Hawaii, surrounded by the spirit of Aloha, shaped your perspective on leadership, purpose, and connection?
Well, I have to tell you, uh, I um, I think the aloha spirit is one of, you know, being your brother's keeper and being your sister's keeper and looking out for everyone and
Hmm.
always being positive, regardless. And I believe that there's so much to be grateful for. And a
Hmm.
lot of times we look at the glass as half empty, but all you have to look at is what are the great things happening around you and how can you build on those.
Hmm.
So what the spirit of aloha has really taught me is that there's goodness in everybody and you can bring out the best in people
Hmm.
if you really look for it. And I always say if you scratch hard enough, there's goodness in everyone. And
Yes.
most of us have never had that, goodness essentially pulled out of us. And that's what leadership is all about, is how
Hmm.
do I get the aloha out of you so you can be the aloha and share the aloha.
Yeah. Well said. Let's talk about communication and coaching now, Amos. What
Uh-huh.
does effective communication truly mean beyond words and language?
Yes, and communication for me is one of the most um, misunderstood aspects of leadership.
Hmm.
Um, Many folks think that communication is just sending out information.
Hmm.
And I hear this a lot when I travel around the world.
Hmm.
Hey, I communicated. I communicated to my team, and they really haven't done anything. I'm a great communicator, but there's a piece to that makes it effective. And I'm going to
Hmm.
break this into the communication and the effective piece. So everybody communicates, yeah.
Hmm.
You communicate, I communicate, but to make it effective, it means that it has been received and acted upon.
Hmm.
You see, as leaders, we have a bias towards action.
Mm,
So for my communication to be effective, it has to have been received, it has to have been understood, and people need to be able to take action on it. And that's what makes it effective communication.
mm. Amazing. And in your experience, what are some of the most common communication mistakes that hold leaders back?
Well, that's a great question. And now one of the things I think as a communication coach and a speaker, I also believe that we are lifelong learners of communication,
Hmm.
because the moment we stop learning how to communicate, that's when we begin to degrade, if I will, when it comes to being effective communicators.
Mm,
Now, one of the pitfalls that I see is something I called assumed communication,
mm,
where you just assume that, you know, people know exactly what your message, how it's intended to be acted upon,
mm.
you know, and this stems from complexity in your communication,
Right.
because you just assume, well, I communicated, so they need to be able to understand it. It's just assumed. So
Mm,
that's one of the things that I've realized is one of the pitfalls. The second is really uh, communicating in a very complex manner.
mm,
You know, a lot of times we are caught up in the complexities and we forget that the simplicity of how we communicate is what makes it effective.
mm,
And, you know, because, you know, the complexity really, I would say, impresses. The complexity impresses people, but the simplicity mobilizes people. So if you want to move people with your message, you really need to focus on the simplicity,
mm,
because then it is received and it's acted upon.
mm,
And that's one of the biggest pitfalls I see in
mm.
with leaders as they communicate.
Very interesting. You also speak about the power of purpose and clarity. How can people bring these into their daily conversations?
Okay. Um, you know, Astush, you cannot hit a target that you cannot see.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, folks are out there, you know, doing things that are not clear.
Mm,
You know, you have to paint a picture, you have to be clear enough so
mm,
people can really understand what you really want.
mm,
And I call this framing the picture. Your team and the people you lead need to see it very, very clearly.
mm,
Because when they see it clearly and they understand it, then you add intentionality to it, then you add action to it. But it's very difficult to have a purpose
mm,
when you can't really see it. So the clarity for me is so important. And my, my litmus test, if I will, for clarity is always, can what I'm saying be understood by a fourth grader?
mm,
Because if a child can understand it, that means everybody can understand it. So
mm,
we've really got to make sure that what we're trying to do is as clear as can be, and then add purpose to it, add intentionality to it, give it momentum, give it the wheels that it needs, because everybody can see it and everybody knows this is the direction we are going
mm,
in because it's very clear.
mm. And one of your key topics is handling tough conversations. What makes difficult discussions so intimidating for most people?
This is a tough one for every leader, and it's something that every leader, and in fact, not just leaders, but everybody has to deal with tough conversations at some point,
Mm,
be it in your professional life, be it in your personal life. Uh, and one of the things that, you know, uh, makes it very hard for leaders mostly is confrontation.
mm.
Many people rather, you know, call it, let's sweep it underneath the rug,
Yeah.
because then we don't have to deal with it.
Mm,
And the problem with sweeping it underneath the rug is that it never goes away.
Mm.
It basically actually gets bigger. They say, I mean, if there's a wolf knocking on your door, it might be a little cub.
Yeah,
And the moment you ignore it, it just grows bigger and bigger and bigger. The
correct,
day you open the door, it's going to be one big bad wolf.
correct,
So
correct.
I always say you have to be able to confront your fears. You have to be able to have conversations that are difficult. And
Mm.
one of the things that I advise leaders, and there's so many ways, again, depending on the situation, but you have to approach it with honesty.
Mm.
You have to approach it with candor.
Mm.
You also need to be civil in how you have tough conversations with people, but there has to be a resolution out of that tough conversation.
Mm.
And you have to remember that that's somebody's brother, somebody's sister, somebody's mother, somebody's father when you're
Mm.
having a conversation with them. But at the end of the day, um, what stays hidden stays hiding.
Correct.
And and you have to be able to just face your fears and have those conversations and have a framework. If it's a work related conflict,
Mm.
have a framework of how you're going to discuss it, how you're going to identify the issue, bring it to the table, work on solutions, and have a way to how you move forward with it.
Mm. Amazing. And how
Yeah.
can professionals make their communication more persuasive without sounding manipulative?
Okay. Um, it's very important that when you're communicating with people, you add value to them.
Mm.
And my approach to persuasive communication is the people that I'm communicating with, have I touched their hearts first
Mm.
before I ask for a hand? Because if I haven't added value to you, if I haven't touched your heart,
Mm.
then it's all about me.
Mm.
But if I add value to you, I touch your heart, then you're more willing to
Mm.
receive what I am trying to communicate
Mm.
with
Mm.
you. Yeah.
How do storytelling and emotional intelligence shape the impact of a leader's message?
We are designed to remember stories
Mm.
and forget facts
Mm.
because we are emotional beings.
Mm.
So, at the heart of any great communicator, at the heart of any great leader
Mm.
is their ability to tell stories
Yeah.
because these stories touch hearts.
Mm.
These stories move people. So this question is really amazing because it touches on two things that go hand in hand.
Mm.
I remember stories my grandmother used to tell me,
Mm.
but I probably don't remember facts that were thrown at me at a
Sure.
meeting 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, learning how to tell stories
Mm.
effectively. These stories evoke emotions, and
Mm.
because we're emotional beings, we act on those emotions
Mm.
because the stories evoke those. But
Mm.
facts rarely,
Correct.
rarely do that.
Correct. You're so right. I mean, we always remember stories very well.
Yeah.
Uh, but Amos, is there a link between communication, credibility, and leadership influence?
Yes. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Because how you gain credibility is being effective at communicating with,
Mm.
with people. And without credibility, you cannot lead. Now, can you manage people without credibility? Yes.
Mm.
But that's more positional. That's really they're there because
Mm.
you have you gotta write them a paycheck or you're essentially their boss, which is a
Mm.
word I don't really like using a lot. But when you communicate well and you gain the credibility and you lead
Mm.
people, you're leading them with influence. They believe in you. They believe in where you're going.
Mm.
They believe in where you're taking them.
Mm.
The picture is very, very clear,
Mm.
And in this particular case, you're walking with people towards a destination.
Mm,
And the truth is, Ashutosh, is there's a lot of people who really think they're leading, but they have no credibility and they haven't communicated effectively. So
mm,
they're really not leading, they're just taking a walk.
mm. Very interesting.
Yeah.
You often talk about speak to influence.
Mhm.
What does influence mean in the context of communication?
Okay. Influence means that I have added enough value to you that you are willing to listen to what I have to say. I
Mm,
have added credibility to you. You trust me because speaking of influence means that I trust the person that is speaking with me because they have gained my trust.
mhm.
So speaking of influence simply means I'm speaking to people who have gained my
Right,
trust
right.
and who are ready to listen to what I've said. And one of the things I always say, I never take it for granted when people give me a stage. And I travel all over the world. I've been to now 37 countries.
Mhm,
And when people give me a microphone and I'm on a stage and there's hundreds or thousands or you know, however many people are there, I take that very seriously
mm.
because I am going to have an opportunity to influence some of those people.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's where the influence comes in. They have to trust me that what I am saying is not only actionable, but it carries its weight when it comes to leadership and
Mm,
communication. And
mm,
and to that as well, Ashtosh, I take coaching and speaking seriously because you know I always say that when I speak and I have a platform,
mm.
somebody is going to take my words and is gonna take action on them.
Correct,
And
correct.
I have to make sure that whatever it is that I'm communicating is going to not just impact them
Mm,
positively,
mm,
but then is going to multiply and add value
mm,
to others as well.
mm. Great response. Amos, you've coached senior executives and you've coached military leaders. What common challenges do you see across such diverse groups of people?
Um, the one thing that I see, and it's interesting because yeah, that's a diverse group of
Mm,
people. But as you asked me that question, I was thinking about that, and I realized that it's the toughest thing is always the ability to unlearn and
mm,
relearn.
mm.
And it comes down to a teachability
Right.
a challenge.
Mm,
Because a lot of times, Ashutosh, at that level, we're set in our ways. You know,
mm.
I'm a senior executive. I've been doing this for the last 20,
Yeah,
30 years. I hear
yeah.
that a lot. And you know what? It's worked for me. It always works. But one thing we don't realize is that
Mm.
things are changing and we have to change with the times.
Right.
And so I find it challenging to take folks to be able to have them unlearn. So we're going to take
Mm.
everything you've learned over the last, 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
unlearn them because we have to relearn them. And that also means you have to be teachable.
Mm.
And then you have to have humility to be
Yeah.
like, okay, there is another way of looking at this. And,
Very.
and and time has shown us that if we don't evolve, if we don't change, if we don't grow,
Mm.
then you know it'll be a story of what the computer did to the typewriter.
Mm.
Because you
Absolutely.
still have a typewriter, others have already moved forward. It's because
Correct.
some people got stuck with the typewriters and
Mm.
essentially it became obsolete.
Absolutely. I have time for
So,
two more
so
questions for you now.
yes,
What role does empathy play in communication coaching and leadership development?
okay. At the core of who we are as human beings, there's a heart, there's a soul, there's a person in there,
Mm.
and people trust and gravitate towards people they feel
Mm.
uh, understand them, can get them, can resonate with them.
Mm.
Uh, I may not be going through the same situation you're going through, but at least I take time to understand it deeply
Yeah.
so that I can be able to help you and add value to you.
Mm.
So empathy is it's so important, not just in coaching and speaking, but
Mm.
in life in general.
Mm.
Because if you're not an empathetic human being, then essentially you're just like a robot
Yeah.
and you have no feelings.
Mm.
And so yeah, people want to be felt, heard, understood, and all that we derive from empathy.
Yes. Yes. And my last question for you, Amos, you say visibility equals opportunity. How can professionals position themselves for growth without seeming to be self-promoting themselves?
Okay. This is a, again, really great question because you're either visible or you're invisible.
Mm.
In this day and age where business and life and technology is moving at a very rapid rate,
Mm.
we need to be able to showcase what we're doing.
Mm.
And we need to be able to showcase it in real time. So back in the days, we used to hear, hey, let your work speak for itself.
Mhm.
Don't blow your own trumpet.
Mm.
But in this day and age, I always tell people, I give you the permission to blow your own trumpet because
Mm.
if you're not being seen, then you're losing your competitive edge.
Mm.
And how do you do it? If
Mhm.
you're a team leader, you want to be seen by sharing contributions, not
Yeah.
just that you have achieved, but also that your team has as well.
Mm.
It's going to be a team effort. This is what we have done
Mm.
as a team. You know, don't wait until the end of the year when you're having your annual review to
Mm.
be able to showcase what you've done because information is moving very, very
Yeah.
quickly,
Yeah.
and we have to stay on top of it.
Correct. Correct.
Additionally, I really believe that as long as you are giving credit to where credit is due,
Mm.
you're doing it in a way that is respectful and that brings everybody else along.
Mm.
Versus, this is what I have done, yet you have a team of 20 or 30 people
Mm.
who you kind of silence in the process of
Mm.
creating your own visibility. And that's
Mm.
what I call, stepping on other people so that you can be seen.
Mm.
But as long as you are giving credit and you're doing it in a way that honors everybody, because there's no way one person can can be successful. We work in teams.
Mm.
Bring out the best in your team, bring out the
Correct.
best in yourself. And that's really true leadership because it's all about bringing each other along on this journey.
Mm. Amazing. And on that note, Amos, I just want to say what an amazing conversation this has been. Thank you for talking to me about your own journey. Thank you for giving us such incredible pointers towards good communication. Thank you for speaking to me and good luck to you.
Thank you, Astosh, and all the best to you. And thank you for adding value to people through your podcast. And for any of your guests who want to get more of what I do, they can visit me at amosbalongo.com.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.